On behalf of your host, Steve D, this is Bruce Buffer saying thank you for tuning in to Xtreme Lyfe. And now, this is the moment Xtreme Lyfe fans around the world have been waiting for. It's time!
That's awesome. Hey man, you know what? We went through some struggles here, but we made it happen.
Right, we're here.
We got us on. So I'm here with XtremeLyfe.com, Xtreme Lyfe podcast. I am here today with Quentin Thomas Henry, pro MMA fighter, the hero, just an awesome fighter. Bare Knuckle, currently fighting with Bare Knuckle Championships, fighting championship, right? That's correct?
Right. Yeah, Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship.
Yep. And you turned pro. I was looking through some of your record. I think you started fighting amateur in 2009, right? And then turned pro.
Yeah, I think recorded it was 2009, yeah.
Yeah. There may be fights before that, but you know how that goes. Sometimes they don't get all of them.
Yeah, there wasn't a really good tracking system back then. There's a couple that aren't on there, but they weren't like big events and stuff. They probably weren't even sanctioned, that type of deal.
Yeah. So I get it. And it looks like you went pro in like 2011, and you just been on a tear ever since, man. You have a lot of fights under your belt. And then you, I don't know, when did you go over to Bare Knuckle? When was that? When did you?
August of 2019, I think that was when my first Bare Knuckle fight was.
Okay. All right. And what made you make the change? It's kind of and we'll go into it. We'll talk a little bit about, Bare Knuckle and the differences and, but what made you decide at that point to go into Bare Knuckle?
Well, I retired from MMA pretty much. I was just running my gyms and stuff. I had some injuries and things that just kept nagging me, and a couple, just things that had happened and just made me not like MMA anymore. Mm-hmm. And it just wasn't fun to me like it used to be. Well, then my training partner at the time had been offered another fight with Bare Knuckle, and he wasn't able to do it. And, I was like, I'll do it, because we're the same weight. And I just stepped up, like 3 weeks notice just to say I did it kind of deal. And it turned out to be a lot of fun. I did really well. The fight went viral. That was off a 3 week notice off of not training for about 8 months, really, besides just coaching people. So then, after that, I had a surgery, just being a routine thing, having some like lipoma tumors removed. And then after that, we started let's see where another fight is. And then the Corona hit. So
yeah,
we just trained real hard over the pandemic, and here we are, 3 fights deep.
Yeah, I think you're seeing a lot of MMA gyms and fighters and just the whole sport itself kind of got put on pause for a second.
Right.
But, people kept training, of course, because, it was going to come back. But, it was a hell of a struggle. I know here I'm in the Northeast, up in New York, New Jersey area. And, it hit us hard, everything got shut down. And we were still training, just kind of sneaking in here to try to keep it going.
Well, I own my gym. So, I've got 2 gyms that I was able to keep training. Me and my coaches were able to train when we wanted to, so, but I didn't have other people to train for once. It was just kind of got to train myself. So, everybody else was staying at home and, we'd come into the gym and train all day. That's all we had to do.
Yeah. And is that GOAT Combat Agency? Is that?
Yeah, it's my management company that I'm with.
Okay.
Yeah, they Scott and Vince. They we got a couple more people now, Cheyenne, Vanessa, but yeah, it's my management company with specialize in bare knuckle, but we've got some MMA guys too.
Okay, cool, man. So you're into a lot of different stuff, right? You're keeping yourself busy. It sounds like you got a lot of things going on despite the pandemic. And, I think that's a great attitude to come back and say, look, all right, I'm not really training anybody else right now, so I'm just going to work on myself. Were there specific things you wanted to work on or touch up or fix or, whatever in your game?
Through most of my career, even when I was, coaching or training and fighting myself, I spent more time helping the other guys get ready than really focusing on myself a lot. So yeah, I finally had the time to sit back and reorganize things with just focusing on my training and the way I wanted to do stuff. Me and my buddy Josh started training together because all the gyms had shut down. I still had mine. So, every day we were in here working and, just kind of just became something, here we are. I've always been good at throwing hands. That's even in MMA. That's, I got a lot of submissions on my record, but most of his times I'd hit that person and dropped them, and then we went to the ground type of deal. So, I'm just fitting into it. Really. I'm still learning. It's fun, because it's still a new sport and there's so much more out there to be learned and seen with it.
Yeah, I mean, over the last decade or so, it's definitely, rose up, right? So we've seen MMA. Now it's a huge thing. I mean, if you said jiu-jitsu 10 years ago, people wouldn't even know what the hell you're talking about. Now you say it, everybody's like, oh, yeah, I study that. I'm over here. People everybody's doing it now, right? Or Muay Thai boxing or whatever. I mean, everything. Combat sports have become extremely popular over the last decade. I mean, there's several people. I mean, I've been a fan and a practitioner, and training for years, even before that. But, it's one of those things where, it's a lot of people are involved now. It's a good thing for the sport. I mean, people are really excited about it. Bare Knuckle seems to be doing very well. One of the questions I wanted to ask you was, when you get into bare knuckle boxing, there's different rules in the bare knuckle game. Was it a tough transition for you, or was it kind of like something that just kind of felt natural?
Yeah, I mean, it was weird at first, and the biggest thing is feeling like it's okay. Because normally it's not okay to hit somebody bare knuckle, and if you're in a regular boxing match, it's not okay to clinch and, dirty box and do stuff like that. So it's, but it's more natural to me and what I want to do because it's more like a real fight. You just saw like in the last event, you had Chop Corley. Everybody knows that guy.
Yep.
He fought against Reggie Barnett and, Reggie made him quit in the 4th round. And, but it was, in my opinion, I feel like it was because Reggie didn't go out there and box him, he bare knuckle boxed him. Because in our sport, you can clinch, you can grab, you can, horse collar somebody and uppercut. And, it's okay to work like that. And in regular boxing, as soon as they grab each other, the ref's like, break.
Yeah.
And Reggie fought a smart fight. He used, the available rule set that we have in bare knuckle to nullify, Chop's hands. It was just, he was so tired from having the clinch, he couldn't throw anything at him, not with any power, so, it's fun, man. It's a little different.
Yeah, it's very different. I mean, I think that's one of the things that, there's so many different variations of the sport kind of coming out, right? And you kind of clarified there a bit how important it is to, whatever you're doing, whether it's bare knuckle boxing or MMA or Bellator, or wherever you're fighting, whatever promotion you're fighting with, it could be the difference between you winning a fight or losing a fight to really know how to work those rules, right? Work and know how to work inside them. And it seems like it's extremely important.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like I said, especially with because that's the biggest thing about bare knuckle is the clinch work. You don't have to catch somebody with a big shot and have a lot of space to land it to cut them, to change the difference in a fight. My last one, for example, when we were getting broken up by the ref, I got a knuckle in the eye. I couldn't see out of my left eye anymore. But
that was the finger poke against Chris Lieben, right? Was that
right? Yeah,
the one you were talking about? Yeah. I saw that fight. That looked like a pretty vicious finger poke too, man. How tough?
Yeah, it hurt. Yeah, it stung. I got 2 stitches on my eyelid right here from it, but it's whether it was a fingernail or a knuckle, I've seen people get hit with a knuckle the same way, and that's completely legal. So. It's just one of those things you got to be prepared for. You might, if whether it was a fingernail or not, doesn't matter. In my opinion, in my circumstance that I'm in, it's a knuckle. And, you got to be ready to adapt to that, to fight with one eye. It's just part of it.
Yeah. And the one thing you don't want to say to the ref is, I can't see. Because second you say that, it's over. But,
Yeah.
it gets to that, you know, and I mean, you're right. I mean, these are things, I mean, they're not legal things that happen, but they are accidents that do happen in the ring when you're, you know, or in the cage or in the ring or wherever you're fighting. You know, even with a groin strike, things like that, you know, they're going to happen. I mean, if you're a fighter, you have to kind of say, hey, there's just some point in my career, I'm going to get a good poke in the eye or I'm going to get hit in the groin.
I mean, we're not out there, you know, this isn't choreographed, you know, so
yeah.
You know, things are going to happen like that. Not every shot's going to land exactly where you know, I doubt anybody plans on hitting you in the groin, you know, but
hopefully not.
So you moved, you know, I wouldn't hit you there if you wouldn't have moved, you know, that's like the deal. But
there may be some out there that are like, you know, I'm just going to give them a good shot, but
I've seen a couple intentional ones for sure, but
yeah, I mean, it's, so, you know, do you find that in bare knuckle, because this is a conversation I actually had with Ken Shamrock, because he has a promotion that he's working with, bare knuckle as well. And, you know, one of the things we talked about was the volume, right? How much volume gets thrown? You know, I mean, do you think it's the same volume of punches getting thrown or with the gloves on or without the gloves on? I mean, or do you think there is no difference at all?
Man, it depends. I think it seems to reflect the weight class appropriately. You know, when you watch the heavyweights fight, a lot of times they're not just throwing, you know, and they're not throwing any more than a lot of the bigger heavyweights. It's just when they land the shots, they seem to drop more. You know, there's no padding, you know, and the fights end up being a lot shorter because of that, you know, with the bare knuckle, you know, but I mean, there was a fight the other night in Biloxi. These two little guys are like 125, 135, something like that. And dude,
they were just
I couldn't tell you how many punches they threw, but it was a lot. And whatever they counted, it was probably more because I guarantee you they didn't count every one of them. Yeah. So, I mean, you know, it just depends on the fight. And I've seen some fights that are, you know, the guys are just real strategic and they just land them. You know, my plan most of the time is to not throw a whole lot of shots. It's just to throw the right shot, you know? So, but I don't think it's, you definitely see, you see a lot more aggression in our sport and a lot less, people pacing themselves and trying to push it out because that's the nature of the game. You know, that's what they want us to do when we're in there fighting. They want you to push the pace and, they've set up I guess the way you move up based on your performance, and that instinct is from that standpoint as far as like you go out there and you try and fight. You know, so it takes a lot of the pressure off that you have with boxing and MMA to have to win, you know, so you have a lot of people in MMA and boxing, and that's really why those sports, one of the biggest reasons those sports lost interest to me, because you got to the point where you were fighting people that were just trying not to lose. You know, they weren't fighting to win. They were just fighting not to lose. And that's boring. And it sucks because it puts so much pressure on you. Like in MMA, every time you lose, like you took 2 years back in your career, at least. Boxing, you could have one loss and that means you'll never be anything, you know, because there's people that are paying for 20 plus wins, you know, out down in Mexico, you know, that they'll get in 3 weeks, you know, with the padded records and stuff. And, you know, it just, in bare knuckle, you don't have that. And when we go out and we're signed up, when you talk to Dave or whoever else, they're like, all right, look, you're getting paid to come here and fight. And if you don't fight, you won't come back. But they never once tell you that you're getting paid to win and, or not lose, you know? So, there's a couple guys who haven't won a fight, but when they come out there and fight, the whole crowd is on their feet and they're screaming, you know, because those guys go out and go all out and they get knocked out. They get up and they're like, hell yeah, good fight. Where's my check? You know, but they go out there and they put on a show. And, you know, as a fan, if you're at the show, you don't care if that guy's lost his last 3 fights. That dude goes out there and brawls, you know, and that's kind of where the sport is different. You know, we're incentivized to win, not to win, but to put on a show and fight hard. And when that chain is released, it's like you can just let yourself go, you know, because the biggest worry of any of this stuff is losing. That's the biggest worry on your mind. But then when they look at you and they're like, hey man, I don't care if you lose as long as you look damn good doing it. And
as long as you crash and burn hard on the other side, right?
And it's like, all right, and that's what, I had the fight with Chris Lieben and stuff, and they're like, how'd it go? I'm like, well, he won, but I gave him hell. He don't want to do it again. I know that. So, but, at the same time, I lost. And in a lot of sports, you'd never hear from me again, but in this sport, that night I'd message Dave, I'm like, man, I wish it would have, I didn't plan on it coming out that way, or I wish it could have at least lasted a little longer, and he's like, no, man, you gave them exactly what they wanted. It was a great fight and you'll be back soon. Don't worry about it. So, makes it a lot easier to go to work and keep training to know that, you can be valued just based on your performances.
And I think sometimes it makes people perform better when they don't have that pressure, right? That pressure of,
absolutely.
I just need
because there's so many chances you don't take because you're worried about losing. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I mean, no pun intended, it kind of just takes the gloves off and lets you go. And that's just, where you go with it.
Yeah, no, that's great. And one of the questions I wanted to ask too was, because I know, when you're fighting bare knuckle, do you have to pick your shot? I mean, because like I said, a lot of us are used to wearing gloves, used to wearing 4-ounce gloves. The bare knuckle fighting is a kind of a newer. It's probably the oldest art, but the newest coming into the modern era of mixed martial arts and fighting. But do you find you have to pick your shots more? You have to kind of, because you don't want to, you wear gloves not to protect the other person's face. You wear them to protect your hands.
Right.
So,
yeah. No, I mean, that's definitely part of the game. I train bare knuckle most of the time. Like, I wear like leather work gloves when I hit mitts or the bag. And, I wear boxing gloves when we spar, but, at the same time, every time I hit somebody and it's like, if I catch them on top of the head, I'm in my head like, oh, I landed that, but that'd been a broken hand, in bare knuckle. Yeah. And you do see some guys who are having trouble with that in the sport. Some guys haven't, I guess, conditioned their hands for it over life. I grew up laying brick and, stuff like that. So my hands can do whatever. I don't have no problem with them. I've never broken them. I've always trained with no hand wraps. But I'm also a pretty accurate striker. I don't just throw, wild, for the most part. Even when you watch some of my fights and I'm going pretty crazy, my shots are landing where they're supposed to. I'm never catching them on top of the head. They're always, landing on the chin or going where I'm intending them to where it's a soft spot and my hands don't break. Yeah. But yeah, man, you do see a lot of fights that there've been a couple of times where fights have ended because, a guy's broken his hand. Yeah. The Joe Elmore's last fight, I think he broke his hand in the second round. Mm-hmm. So when, Joe throws every ounce of dick in every punch that he throws. So, if you don't catch it right, you're going to break your hand. It can't hold up to that, and you're hitting Leonard Garcia, and that dude can take a shot too. So, but yeah, I mean, you got to be strategic with it. That's probably, that was one of my biggest worries about fighting Chris Lieben was that I was going to break my hand on his head. Yeah. But I wasn't worried about that once the bell rang.
Once the bell rang, it was all business, right? It was time to go to work.
Yeah, it was just too hype. I was just too hype, all energy.
So what happens when that bell rings? I mean, what goes through your mind? I mean, is it just pure focus? Do you see red and you're just like, I want to go at this? I mean, because a lot of fighters, I talk to a lot of fighters, and a lot of fighters tell me, about that switch that kind of happens as soon as that bell rings, or working up to the fight, and then the bell rings, and then all of a sudden there's somebody else. I mean, what happens in your head when that?
Man, there's no telling. It's different every time. It's like when you go to play Mortal Kombat and you hit random character.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that's what when the bell rings, it's like, all right, which one's it going to be? Like
who am I going to be today?
And I mean, maybe there are guys who are like right into that every time they're in the same focus, but it just depends on the adrenaline and the energy of the fight, and that's one of the things you get better at handling, as you get more experience, and like that was the biggest thing I took from the last fight was that, in the past, my issue was that I was having trouble getting, up enough for the fight. I was too timid, too worried when I was going in there, too self-conscious. And then I had the fight with Chris, and the problem was the opposite. I was way up here, and I was just too crunk, and I was too worked up for it, and which ended up not being in my best benefit. I'd tell everybody, if we fought 100 times, that's the only one he'll win, because that's the only time I'll ever fight him like that. But just the energy of the fight and the build up, and like, to my understanding, I thought he was going to do the same thing, but he didn't. So he kind of played me, but it told me that I can at least control it. So I'd look at it like when you sight in a rifle. It's starting off, when you go to shoot it, it's shooting right. It's shooting right for about 4 or 5 shots, and then all of a sudden it's shooting to the left. And then once it shoots left, you just one click back, and you're there. I think the Lieben fight was my shot to the left, and whoever's next is getting in between the eyes.
That's it. So you had to, and I like to look at it like that too. I like to look at any fight, whether it's a win or a loss. Matter of fact, I think people learn more from their losses than they do from their wins anyway. You learn more from your, I always say this, I've learned way more from my failures than I have from my successes, right? Because then you readjust. Because if you're winning, you're just like, okay, I'm winning.
I got this. Right.
Yeah. When you're getting into your, when you say, oh, crap, something happened in this last one that screwed me up, then you kind of take a deep dive, right? You take a look, you make some micro adjustments, whatever you got to do, and you say, okay, that's not going to happen that way again.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I've always been super critical of even my fights that I've won, but definitely when a loss comes into effect, usually, though, it seems like the losses always end up to be the biggest mental errors that I've had. It's when I go back, it's always seems to be more mental than anything. So that's where I've spent a whole lot of time going back. I read a lot of books about it, and I practice it in the gym when I'm working with my guys and I'm talking to them about their fight. Just the way I talk about it, the way we do things. But I mean, for sure, man, I've had losses have impacted my life greatly. I take those, I don't not say I take them bad, but I take them seriously, every time it happens. I had one fight, I fought for Legacy Fighting Championships, right? And I worked for the fire department, and I had grown out my beard when I was on vacation, because I always had to shave every day. Yeah. But when I came back, I had to come back for one day, and then I had to go back the next day. I got to go do weigh-ins and stuff like that. So I came back the one day and I shaved everything but my mustache, like as a joke. Yeah. And, my wife came, and I always did that every time I got my beard or whatever. Well, I was like, I'll shave it off in the morning. Well, then I go do the weight cut, everything. And I go to Legacy, and I'm sitting there, and they're like, man, after you get done, you got to come over here and do your photos for the TV stuff. I'm like, all right, yeah. I'm like, let me just go fix my hair or whatever. I'm all sweaty and all that. I didn't know I was about to do this. Then I go in the bathroom, I look up, and I still got the mustache. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so embarrassing. So like the whole time I'm taking the pictures, I'm like trying not to laugh, but I have to be super serious with this just terrible. Like now I grow a decent mustache. Back then it was terrible. And I was like, they're like, all right, we want you to look at the camera and like with the mean face, like when you turn to the side when I say 3, and they'll say it, and I'm like, but I couldn't hold it. Yeah. But anyway, I ended up losing that fight. I kind of choked. Mentally, I had a mental block in that fight, and then I made myself not shave the mustache until I won another fight, and
give yourself
that was kind of right. So every time I looked at myself in the mirror, I was like, "Oh, you have that stupid mustache," and
you're gonna get rid of it,
right? So I mean, it forced me to figure out how to get rid of it. I had to win to get rid of it, and I had to conquer that. So but. You're definitely right, man. When you lose, you have to reanalyze everything that's going on. It makes you sit back on it.
Well, I always think, you got to win with humility and lose with dignity, right? So right. That's always how I kind of look at it. And it's
your wins are never as great as everyone tells you they are.
Yeah.
And your losses are always a little worse than they say.
Yeah, because everybody's trying to, you have that social contract. I'm going to try to make you feel better, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. And you know, that when people that are close to you see you win, they want to see you win. They're not looking at the bad things you do. They're looking for the good things. You know, even in your losses, they're looking at the good things you did. And you know, and as a human or as an athlete or competitor, you tend to just look at the bad. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, you got to kind of, you know, take each with a grain of salt and see which one's a little more accurate. There's some truth in there somewhere.
Well, somewhere in the middle, I think, is the truth, right? You get to that point where it's like, you know, you're always, you know, and people say this to me all the time. They say you're your own worst critic. Right. And, you know, and other people tend to fluff things up. So you're right. So I think somewhere in the middle is really where the truth lies, right? So it's not quite as harsh.
Even the haters, man, even when people hate on you, there's a little bit of truth in it sometimes.
Yeah. Except
sometimes.
They're just really shitty. Pretty brutal these days, but
yeah, they're just shitty at presenting, you know, their criticism is the biggest difference.
Yeah, no, it's you know, you're absolutely right, man. Everything you said here is absolutely accurate. But the you know, what does camp look like for you? Like when you're getting ready for a fight, right? What does that look like? I mean, I know fighters that they handle it two different ways, right? And I spend a lot of time with different fighters and training with certain people, and some just kind of train the same way all the time, all year round. They're just like, I'm always really in camp, and then I just get ready that last couple weeks ready for a specific fight, and then I go. And then there's other fighters who kind of dial back training a little bit here and there, and then when they're ready to go into a fight, you know, that 2 or 3 month period before the fight, they just dial it in and get serious and go to work. What does it look like for you? What does that what does camp look like?
I mean, used to, I always trained year round. I never like took time off where I wasn't at the gym. You know, I wouldn't necessarily be training as hard, but I mean, now, you know, this is just what I do now. Mm. So, you know, and I got, so I think I'm ranked number 3 in the world, you know, and, it was the first time that bare knuckle, I've had a bunch of opportunities that I, you know, thought were good opportunities in my career that just didn't pan out for one reason or another. And, you know, a lot of times it was, you know, looking back, it was like, well, would I have even been ready for it if it had been presented to me? You know, was I even training hard enough, or was I in the right mindset, you know, type of deal. So, you know, when the bare knuckle thing came up and I started training, I opened up like another business or two so that I could actually, you know, the fire department was just preventing me from being able to do a lot. Left the fire department so I could start training every day. You know, so yeah, I train every day. So, I mean, like I'm in the gym now, not to do this interview, it's because we were about to train. Yeah. You know, so, and, you know, the biggest difference in me as far as when a fight's coming up is just how I'm eating for the most part. My diet changes, but, you know, I'll start, you know, my lifting routine is a little different when I'm, you know, depending on what I'm wanting to do, if we're trying to put on a little weight or, you know, gain a little mobility here or there or whatever. So, but it's really just the mindset changes when I have a fight signed. It's just I trained harder because I want it more, I guess, type of deal. There's more motivation there. But yeah, there's not I used to be that guy that would fight and be like, oh, you know, I'm 2 weeks off, you know, type of deal. But that's not what you do when this is your profession, you know, and you want to do it seriously.
Yeah, and that's, like I said, there's a couple different mindsets here, right, that people tend to have, and some are just kind of like, okay, I just fought, I'm going to take a few weeks or a month off and kind of dial it back. Month's a bit much, I think, always, but I even think, you know, me, I'm a fanatic when it comes to training, especially like fitness training, things like that. Right. And, you know, for me to take a day, like I do 2-a-days usually. Like I'll do my morning, kind of just my row or my bike or my run, and then I'll do like all my strength and intense work later on, or, you know, MMA, whatever I'm working through that day. But, you know, it's you know, it's one of those things where, and then I know other fighters that have just kind of like, they fought, they won the fight the night before, and they're back in the cage the next day, getting ready for something else, you know, just kind of keeping themselves loose, right?
Well, you got, if you got to be, you know, if you're stay ready, you don't have to get ready. You know, but like like when they have events that I'm not even on, I'm ready to make weight if somebody backs out. And, you know, I mean, they know every time they put on a show, if somebody, you know, within reasonable distance of my weight backs out, they can just call me and I'll have my blood work ready and all that, you know, and I'll be ready to fight. And I think that's a huge difference between, me and a lot of these guys, because, you know, when we're 6 weeks out or 4 weeks out from the sport, and bare knuckle's weird in the sense that it's different than a lot of the sports, is we don't really get a lot of notice before fights. It seems like, you know, sometimes there are fights that are planned like way out ahead of time.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, for the most part, the longest I've had to get ready is maybe 6 weeks. And usually I don't have anything confirmed until about 5. You know, but they're a small company, and they have a small group of people that they work with, and it works for them because they put on great shows and everybody works great together and stuff like that. But they really kind of focus on one show at a time, and just to make sure, I guess, there's the quality in it. So, you know, they might in this sport, you have to be ready, and I'm not going to be one of those guys that's like turning down a fight or opportunity to make money. You know, because I'm not ready, because, you know, I don't look at this as a hobby or anything anymore. This is how I pay bills. And, you know, it's like when they call me for a fight, it's like, that's overtime. You know, that's some stuff I didn't plan on making. Yeah. And, you know, so we're going to go in here, and you know, I train every day to throw hands. When it's time to throw hands, let's go. And, so yeah, I'm definitely not one of those guys who's just waiting for everybody else, or, you know, waiting for a contract to get in before I'm gonna start hitting the road and getting the sweat on.
No, it's a great point. I mean, stay ready, right? If you stay ready, you will be ready. And then if you're one of those guys that's reliable, then the promotion's always going to kind of work with you, because they're always they always need.
Man, I almost like, I've gotten to the point where, like, in life, I always just want to be ready to fight somebody. So it's like, I always, at any time, I should be able to run a mile. At any time, I should be able to fist fight somebody. At any time, I should be able to grapple them. Because, you know, when you think about it, you go into the gym a lot of times, and what's the first thing you do? All right, you get your gi on. We're going to warm up for about 10 minutes. But if you're out in public, ain't nobody going to let you get a warm up in, you know, and get stretched, or, oh, I just ate, you know, type of deal. Or, you know, so, you know, or they're not going to let you have a training camp when it's time to get in a fight or defend yourself. So, you know, a lot of mine is just, I want to stay healthy at all times. You know, so I think as a man, there's certain things, certain physical, I guess, physical standards you should keep yourself to, you know. So, and, you know, I just have a bunch of people that like doing that too. So we just do it a little harder than everybody else.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you got a great bunch of people around you. You have a great promotion you're working with. And that's actually a technique. It's called cold training, right? To be prepared all the time. It's like I used to have a bar in the gym that I would leave set up, and it was just, I called it my cold bar. And it would be just loaded with whatever weight I threw on there. And it would be just for that reason, right? I should be ready to act at any given moment, right? So if I walk into the gym completely cold, well, let me go pull this weight, and I'm going to pull it, and I'm going to complete a couple lifts with it totally cold, right? And keeping yourself ready like that. I mean, there's guys I know that just come in the gym, don't work.
So this is all you got to do, bro, is just don't warm up and go grab a white belt.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's part of it. That's the equivalent of dry cold lifting 500 pounds. Yep. Yeah. I mean,
not warming up before you grapple a white belt. A white belt that used to wrestle or was in the military.
Yeah. Yep.
One of those two.
Yep. And they might give you a hard time if you're not warmed up too.
You're going to be tired, and you're probably going to pull something if you're not at all ready at all times. That's how you really test yourself. Go test yourself on a really like athletic white belt. Yeah. Cold, like with no warm up. Then you know what you can handle.
Yeah. No, it's absolutely true. I mean, and like I said, you probably get a run for your money if you come in there completely cold, because you're just not going to be, you know, you'll see where you're at. You know,
oh, dude, you'd be like, oh, geez, I get my second win. You know, like, no, bro. You're gonna be like, I would go in the gym when I'm not ready, and those white belts would come up to me. I'd be like, hey, you go over there. I got like certain people that I'll grapple with first. I'm like, hey, come on. You know the deal.
Well, I think that's the thing you get. I mean, I get worried about the most is getting hurt by a white belt by accident.
Oh yeah, for real. That's what I'm saying. They're dangerous, bro. It's the most dangerous thing on the mat is a motivated white belt.
Yeah, who gets a hold of your foot or something.
Yeah, man. They're like a retarded Chuck E. Cheese. They just don't know what to do, and they're strong as shit. They're just
awesome
everywhere. They're just pumped with adrenaline. I know, Jenny, right? It's crazy.
I'm a dog lover myself, man. I have a couple. Right. Yeah. So what do you got? A shepherd there? Looks like
she's a Doberman shepherd.
Oh, Doberman shepherd mix.
Yeah, it's Doberman.
Oh
shepherd.
Yeah, look at her, beautiful.
My partner in crime. She hangs out with me everywhere I go.
We all need one, brother. We all need one. You know.
The only person that can deal with me this much.
It's like my dog. My dog, I'll tell you what, I could go away all day long, come back, and my dog's like, hey, you're back. I'm happy to see you. You know, I don't get that from my wife sometimes. You know,
She's like, oh, you're already here? Okay.
Yeah, what the hell?
My wife's only that excited to see me when the boys are driving her crazy. She's like, oh, he's wet. He's changing. That's what I see. Take him. The baby's screaming. Oh, man. Daddy. Like, here we go. Whoa. Man, I tell you, I'm about to start slipping into the house and putting on headgear and shin guards as soon as I get home.
Are they fighters? Are you raising some fighters over there?
Nonstop, bro. I got to put him in his car seat and I got to kiss him and he's like, pow. Slips one in there and they would just be laughing about it. Like, damn.
Oh, man. So do you want him to follow in dad's footsteps and get into the game or
I mean, I don't care if they ever do it like professionally or whatever, but they'll know how to fight. You know, so I mean they'll train and all. I'm like, my daughter's 9. She takes jiu-jitsu at my school and all. So you know, it's just I feel like that's another one of those things as a dad, that's your responsibility, you know, to teach them how to handle themselves. So absolutely. You know, yeah, I think my younger one would be more suited for it. He's a little more hot-headed and violent like me, and
he's got the fire going.
Which I've calmed down a lot since I've gotten older. But my wife is like the most level-headed, logical person you've ever met, and my older son is kind of like that. Like he reminds me. So like he'll be really good at jiu-jitsu and all, but I don't think he's going to want to hurt anybody. Type of deal. But my younger one, he loves.
He's going to want to hurt people.
Oh yeah, he loves to hurt.
Well, I think it's awesome that your daughter's in jiu-jitsu. I always tell, you know, I tell all my family members and friends, I say, you know what, if you got a young daughter, get her involved in jiu-jitsu. That's probably the best thing for a female to learn, you know, to bust up them jackass guys that they're going to be dealing with. Yeah. They get a little.
I got a couple little girls in my jiu-jitsu program. I got one named Sid Vicious. You know, she's like 45 pounds. Her name's Sydney, but I call her Sid Vicious. Man, she's the cutest thing, but she's tough. And she'll be choking them boys, and I love it. And the whole time she's choking them, I'll be talking smack to them. I'm like, "You letting that little girl choke you like that? What are you doing? You let that little girl beat you up?" And the little boys will just be mad. She'll be grinning, just ear to ear.
Yeah,
you know. But yeah, I mean, because jiu-jitsu is one of those things that even as a girl, if you know jiu-jitsu, you can, you know, get the upper hand on somebody that doesn't. You know, girls
the strength isn't always going to be that important in that it's a matter of position. I mean, it does matter, but it's not going to matter as much as.
Yeah. And I'm not one of those people that are ever going to say, you know, that size doesn't matter, because it absolutely 100% matters. How big you are and how strong you are does matter, because if that wasn't the case, I wouldn't lift weights. You know, but true. But your skill has to be able to overcome that. And sometimes it can, but sometimes there's a certain, you know, like man versus woman. You know, not all the time it will, but an 80-pound woman could definitely choke me unconscious if she got to my back.
Get you in the right position, man. That's all it takes.
Right. In order to do that, you have to have a lot of training. And, you know, so, yeah, absolutely. And that's what people, because size doesn't matter. It's like, no, it's just jiu-jitsu is kind of an equalizer. You know, size does matter. It just teaches you how to use your size type of deal. But yeah, man, and girls really, in my experience as a coach, girls learn so much quicker than the boys do. And
because they come in with a different attitude. You got to remember, guys come in like, oh yeah, this is why. Girls are just like, oh, I'll just do that then. And they be more of
a girl's first instinct is to think, and a man's first instinct is to do. Yeah. And in jiu-jitsu, it's better to think first than it is to do. Yeah. And you know, and that's one of the reasons that they don't rely on being strong. And as a boy, that's the first thing you want to do is be, you know, just be strong and it'll work. Yeah. You know, and but yeah, man, coaching the little girls is probably one of the funnest things to do. You know, like even in my adult class, I've had a couple girls in there that are, you know, like little and cute. Like one of my buddy's fiancés, she was in there, and like when the guys would come in, like those military white belt guys, when they would come in there, you know, I'd be like, why don't you grapple with JC, you know, over there? And then like next thing you know, she was all tough too. She'd be like, she knew what I was doing. And the next thing you know, she'd be choking them or like having them in an arm bar and stuff. Like it was awesome.
Ego destroyed.
Yeah, absolutely. She's like, she's like 120 pounds, you know, and they always start off like, oh, it's a girl, I'm gonna go easy on her. And then they're like going unconscious and they're like, oh God. And yeah, it's my favorite. I love that.
Oh, I'll tell you, man. I know a lot of girls like that, man. There's some great fighters out there that are females. I just watched a friend of mine, Rachel Lipper, destroy another girl's leg. I mean, like it with just leg kicks. I mean, you're like, I don't want to get hit by that. Right. That looks like it hurt. You know? So,
some tough women out there, bro.
Oh yeah, man. There's a lot of great fighters right now. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff going on. So what's next for you? You don't have a fight lined up right now, right? You're kind of just hanging, waiting for the call.
Yeah, I don't have any contract right now. They've got a couple cards coming up. I know they got April 30th in Birmingham.
Yeah,
that'll be the first show in Alabama, and then I think I want to say May 27th in Miami.
Okay,
they're doing a card, and I'm pretty sure the Birmingham card is full. I might be on the Miami card. I'm not really regional to that area as much. So I think they've got some more local people like Hector and guys like that to fill that card. So, but I don't know. Right now, I'm in the process of building a new gym out on my land. I'm about to close this one down and move all my stuff to kind of like a private gym. Okay. So that's my goal right now is keep training and get that built. And then I'll have have an official bare knuckle boxing facility built. Cause, you know, I've got a lot of people on my team and stuff that want to, from all over the country that want to come train and, want to come work out and do whatever. And I need people to come in for training partners. So, I'm trying to get a little place built that's got like some bunks and stuff like that. So we've got a legit bare knuckle place to train at for everybody.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, I appreciate, and if I'm ever down in that area, man, I would love to stop by and check it out, see the place and drop in with you guys and have a little fun. Get my ass kicked a little bit. That's all right. I don't mind.
Absolutely, do. Yeah. Hero Fitness Academy. Just look us up. Man, we're here. We're here. So turning out heroes every day. That's what we do.
Is there anything you want to promote? Anything you want to put out there? Websites, Twitter, anything you want to throw out?
Oh, man, my Instagram is Hero Henry. I don't do the Twitter thing. I'm on Facebook, Quentin the Hero Henry. Most people just end up going to your personal page anyway. Mm-hmm. Air Mid, Hemp Extracts is a big sponsor. Belit Organics, Traxler Chiropractic. I'm sure I'm missing a couple of them. Goat Combat, right? Yep. I had a good turnout on sponsors and people supporting last time. I'm hoping we can get a fight signed so we can, get back at it. I'm ready. So, I might be fighting April 30th. Y'all don't know. They might call and I'll say, yeah. So we'll see what happens. Might be heavyweight, light heavyweight, probably whatever I weigh. That's what I'll fight them at, but I should be pretty close.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you taking the time today. I mean, it was a little bit of work getting this to happen between, with everything.
Man, I don't try and be a bad person. It just happened.
Nah, you weren't. You were fine, man. Like I said, I'm a firm believer.
If I tried, how shitty I would be. Yeah, be impressive.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'm a firm believer in shit happens, and we worked it out, and it's awesome, man. I'm glad you came on. I appreciate it.
Hey, man, appreciate it. Absolutely.
All right, my friend. Be good. And let me know when you're fighting next.
Absolutely. All right. Later, bro.
All right, brother. Be good, man.